What's up, it's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today I'll be doing my prediction for Gregg Berhalter's roster for the World Cup. And this is obviously Gregg Berhalter's, not what I would do. I'll do what I would do tomorrow. And this is a roster that I am not too big of a fan of. I'm hoping that I'm wrong about a good amount of these decisions, but it's what I think that Gregg will do. I'm going to go through each position, explain why players are left off, and let's get into it. In goal, I have Zack, Steffen, Matt Turner, and Sean Johnson. Zack Steffen, he's Gregg Berhalter's favorite goalkeeper. I think he's in the team basically by default. And not only do I think he's in the team, I think he's our starter. I think that Gregg Berhalter really likes Zack Steffen. I understand why, because his ability to play out the back, while certainly not exceptional, probably not even average by Champions League levels, it's an ability that Matt Turner doesn't have. And I think we shouldn't pretend that Matt Turner is good with the ball at his feet. But my issue is that Zack Steffen has been so inconsistent with his actual goalkeeping and shot stopping. He's been very hit or miss coming out to claim crosses, which will be a big problem against Wales and their big Kiefer Moore, especially against England with how big of their set piece threat they have. I mean, we joke about Harry Maguire, but there's a good chance he scores against us. And I'm just looking at Steffen, it's I think the ability he has with his feet is not good enough to justify putting him over Matt Turner, who's been a remarkable shot stopper for us. And honestly, that's the reason I wouldn't even have Zack Steffen on my team. But I can understand the idea of wanting a goalkeeper for the ability with their feet. I've made that argument before, but my issue is that Gregg Berhalter is going to start Walker Zimmerman and Aaron Long. So having Zack Steffen be there strictly for his ability with his feet is incoherent. So I think that's a bad decision to have Zack Steffen start. I understand him being on the team, but he doesn't exactly fill me with confidence. Matt Turner easily makes the squad as well. He's been playing great for us and hasn't been amazing for Arsenal, but he's played there. He's got a couple good matches in the Europa League. He's back on the bench. I think he'll be healthy. So Matt Turner is there pretty easily. I'd like to see him start. I think that's the consensus decision. But I think Berhalter's going to be having him come off the bench. And lastly, we have Sean Johnson. And with Johnson, I really don't see it with him. I think my issue is that he doesn't have the highs that an Ethan Horvath has. And he is pretty inconsistent as a goalkeeper. He will be making mistakes if we try to... He's not somebody who's a consistent, we know what we're going to get, even if it's not he's not a consistent player, I guess. And that's something that Ethan Horvath, I think he's just as good as Johnson in that department. I think he has higher highs. We've seen him come off the bench before, so I'd prefer him to be in the team. Gabriel Salinas strictly for his potential, because let's be honest, the third choice goalkeeper doesn't matter. I'll be honest, Sean Johnson, I get having an older player in the squad. If Brad Guzan was available, I think I might make the argument that Guzan should be in the team strictly for his experience. But Sean Johnson is, just an MLS lifer. He probably has as much pro experience as a Horvath. So I would want Ethan Horvath in the squad. I don't think there's any benefit to bringing Sean Johnson. Now on to center back, the position I think will cost us at the World Cup. I have Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Mark McKenzie. This is one of the positions that I'm really not sure about, because Berhalter has played players through injuries a ton. He did with Pulisic, Reyna, Daryl Dike at the Gold Cup, and I think there's a strong possibility that he brings Chris Richards and tries to play him through an injury. I'm not sure about that, and with Richards probably being unavailable, I don't think Berhalter brings him, but I think it's definitely on the table. Then for the actual center backs, Walker Zimmerman, he's Berhalter's favorite guy at the moment. I'll be honest, I think Berhalter sees himself in Zimmerman. I think that his lack of athleticism is going to hurt us. I think his marking could be an issue at times. And I don't think he should be a starter for us. I can understand he's kind of like what I'd prefer Johnson to be, a consistent backup, not at a very high level. So I'd understand him being in the team. He seems like a decent leader, but his highs are not high at all, and I think he gets exposed at a higher level. Aaron Long, I think now's the time where we can really start to lay into him, because he's going to be costing us points in this World Cup. His only positive trait was his athleticism. He'd use it to cover for his mistakes, and now his athleticism is gone. He has no ability on the ball. He loses runners constantly. His positioning is terrible because he still hasn't adjusted to his lack of athleticism, his new lack of speed. I think he's going to get burned. I think he's going to cost us, and both in attack and defense. And the fact that he's even considered for the squad just shows how incompetent Berhalter is. Cameron Carter-Vickers is available off the bench. I'd have him starting. I think that's basically guaranteed at this point. Hasn't lit the Champions League on fire, but he has had some good experience there. Been very good at Celtic, and we've seen good Scottish League defenders translate to higher levels well. He's done well in the Championship, which is going to be the level of opposition we'll face in Wales. And I don't think there's any argument that you could have that Zimmerman's better than him. I like Cameron Carter-Vickers more in the air. I think he's faster. I think he's stronger. And I would much rather have him starting. Lastly, we've got Mark McKenzie, who I think Berhalter brings over a Tim Ream or an Eric Palmer-Brown. McKenzie, he's somebody who I like for the future because he has everything that you want out of a center back. He's good on the ball. He's very athletic, but I think he doesn't read the game that well. And in addition, I feel like the lights are kind of too bright for him. Like, I feel like he makes too many mistakes when the national team that he doesn't make with his club. So I just feel like he isn't ready for the World Cup. And if he comes into a game, I'm not too confident. I like him as a player, but I don't think he's ready for this moment. Then we have fullback. I have Sergino, Dest, Jedi Robinson, Reggie Cannon, and DeAndre Yedlin. I think Joe Scally will just miss out because I think Berhalter wants to get a lot of his guys in the team, and I don't think he likes Scally. If he did, he would have taken him over Brooks Lennon in January. That was just a ridiculous decision. And I think he would have used Scally a lot more by this point. I think he's going to leave him off in favor of having Dest be strictly the backup left back and having Cannon and Yedlin be the other options. Sergino Dest, really like him. His defensive ability might be an issue, especially if we go up against some really dynamic attackers like a Brennan Johnson, maybe Gareth Bale, Daniel James. Like, that could be... It'll be a tough battle for him. I'm interested to see how that goes. Jedi Robinson, really solid. I think he's not like a really special player, like not the greatest in attack, but he can defend pretty well, and especially against Wales and Iran, he's not really concerned. DeAndre Yedlin is somebody who I like to have in the team because of his experience. I go back to Brad Guzan. I want somebody who's a World Cup veteran to be in the squad. Honestly, like, if I'm Berhalter, even if John Brooks was washed and terrible at this point, which he isn't, I would have brought him into the team just for that. I don't understand not bringing him. So Yedlin's that guy who I think does bring the World Cup experience, and I don't like him as a player. I think he really missed out on fulfilling his potential. That move to Tottenham was a mistake, and he had like one or two good seasons with Newcastle, but I don't think he was ever really like a Premier League level player, even when he was in the Premier League. And yeah, something who I don't want to have him to have too much influence on this current group of players, to be honest. And then Reggie Cannon, Berhalter likes him. To me, he's kind of too much of like a tweener as a player. I don't like him as a center back. I don't think he is good enough defensively, and he offers nothing going forward. I get the versatility, and he likes to use Cannon as like a third center back in a back four, but at that point, just switch to a back three. There's no reason to like change the formation like that to make it unbalanced. It hasn't worked for us. I don't think Cannon should be in the squad, but Berhalter likes him, is what it is. With Sam Vines injured, I don't think there's anybody else other than Scally who would be considered for a backup left back. I could very easily see Shaq Moore making this team. Berhalter seems to really like guys he spends any amount of time with at a camp. That's why Brooks Lennon made the squad before, and I think there's a very good chance Shaq Moore makes the team, and I think probably a higher chance that Shaq Moore makes the team over Joe Scally. I'm really hoping for Scally, but is what it is. At defensive midfield, it's Tyler Adams and Kellyn Acosta. I think these are the only positions that's really like locked down. You know what it's going to be. Adams has been extremely good for Leeds this year. He's really shown progression as a player, but when we play him as a lone six, it really highlights his weaknesses. Berhalter does not get the best out of Adams, and he's been inconsistent at this role, and I have to hope that he carries his good form forward because he's not been consistently good as a lone six. So hopefully, he'll be able to do all right. Kellyn Acosta, man, I'm feeling a bit mad at him for that goal in the final against the Union, but he's offers a good bit defensively. I think he's kind of nobody really wants him in the team, but we haven't had a Tanner Tessman or Johnny Cardoso. Aiden Morris got injured. Like, nobody's really taken that spot from him, so he's kind of just walked into it. I think if he plays as a 6, who we sub on late in the game to help us seal up either a 1-0 win or get a tie to, secure points to go to the next round, I like him in that role. He can even hit a dead ball like a corner kick or a free kick well, but he offers nothing offensively, and if he starts a single game for us, we're in trouble. He can be a very specific role player, but hopefully he doesn't see the field beyond that. At the 8, I have 6 players that I'm bringing: Weston McKennie, Yunus Musah, Brenden Aaronson, Reyna, Malik Tillman, and Cristian Roldan. Weston McKennie, he's been a very good player for us, and we've seen him at his highest highs. He might be the best player on the team when he's in form. But we've also seen him at his lowest low points. And when Weston McKennie is bad, he's almost a liability on the field. And he's returning from an injury. He's probably not going to be 100%. At the very least, he's not going to be match sharp. And because of that, I'm not sure if he's going to be a good player for us. I see there being a good possibility that he comes off the bench, and I think that might be the best option just because he's not 100%. If he is willing to go, he's a guaranteed starter. But if he's not 100%, then it could be pretty bad. Then we have Yunus Musah in the team, and Musah, great player, great at keeping the ball in possession. He might be the best American player come 2026. That's a very real possibility. But he's still only a teenager, and he does make a couple of mistakes that I think will be punished once the opposition gets higher. And because of that, I'm not positive about him starting because, he's still a very young player despite his potential. It's a very easy argument for him to be in the team, but we'll have to see. Then Reyna, similar story to him. I think Reyna's too talented to leave out the field. You have to find a position for him to start, whether that's out on one wing, maybe at a 10 or at the 8. Whatever it is, you need to get Reyna on the field because he is so good. Hopefully he'll still be healthy and 100% by the time the World Cup starts. We have a lot of players who just hopefully they're 100%, but we have to get Reyna on the field. He's too good to leave off. Brenden Aaronson's been in amazing form for Leeds. He's shown that he can impact the game against even the best English teams, which is something I think we have to consider before we play England. Though he does do that as a number 10, which Berhalter will not play him as. So, Aaronson, I think he's in such good form that there's an argument that he should be starting, especially if Weston McKennie can't go. But we'll have to see. I'm a fan of him. I really want to see him play, but you can't leave off Reyna. It's tough to leave off Musah. If Weston McKennie's in good form, it is what it is. But he'll at least come off the bench. Then we have Cristian Roldan. He's in the team. Berhalter likes him. He wants to have a good environment. I personally think that if we wanted this role, I'd rather have John Brooks than Cristian Roldan, because from what I can tell, he's not even a leader or anything. It's just people kind of like him. So he's just going to be taking up a spot. If Berhalter thinks we've got a 26-man roster, we can afford to waste a spot, we can throw it at Roldan. I understand it, but I think it's a mistake. And because he's just not a good enough player, and I don't know, we've all been on teams that have had cuts before. You cut people even if they're likable, if they're not good enough. Even as a third choice goalkeeper, if somebody's a liability on the field, you don't want them there. So I would not have Cristian Roldan in this team. And lastly, Malik Tillman, who I have no sources about this. I cannot confirm this at all. This is just strictly me guessing. But after Ricardo Pepi was called into the team in September when he was in just awful form, I started to think he probably was already promised a World Cup spot to help get him recruited to the team. And I think that's a similar case to Malik Tillman. Again, I can't prove this. This is literally just a guess. But I think Pepi, Tillman, probably Musah and Dest as well, they have an agreement that they're going to be going to the World Cup. So I think Malik Tillman's going to be in this team 100% guaranteed. which I'm hoping because I would have him in the team no matter what, but that's just a theory of mine, which I'll be happy if I'm proven wrong, because I really hope it's not that. I think just Berhalter's good at getting people to buy into his thing, but I think that Tillman will be there. Luca de la Torre misses out from the squad due to his injuries. I think that Berhalter doesn't really like him at all anyway, and I think he'll use that injury as an excuse to leave him off, even if he is ready to go, at least to some ability. And I don't think that Roldan makes the team because Luca is unavailable. I think that Roldan would have already been in the squad. I don't think that impacts him at all. I think it does impact the wingers, and we do get one extra player as a winger instead of Luca de la Torre, but I think Roldan would have been there to guaranteed. At wing, Cristian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Paul Arriola, and Jordan Morris. I think all four of those will be going. Pulisic, self-explanatory. He's our most iconic player at the moment. We've seen him do extremely well in the Champions League. He's had some great moments in him, and probably a leader on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if he captains us. Tim Weah, just a dynamic athlete, great goal-scoring threat, somebody who is probably the only player who looks better in the American system than they do for their club, and I think we have to take note of that. I think that he should be starting. I wouldn't be surprised if we put Reyna on the right wing instead of him, but I think you have to get Tim Weah on the field. Paul Arriola, Berhalter's going to bring him, like we know it, even though he shouldn't have ever been called back to the team after he failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. He just likes him. He has work rate. More than Brenden or Josh Sargent? Nope, but he has work rate. Even if he kills every single attack he is ever a part of because his touch is too heavy, he's not a good enough athlete, he's just too slow at this level and doesn't have the skill to make up for it. And let's be honest, even if he does, if we play him like, okay, we need a lot of work rate this game, we'll throw Arriola out there. If he tries to be a hard worker for 60 minutes, he's pulling a hammy or something. He can't sustain it. We've seen that in the Gold Cup. His injury record is not good enough. Like, Arriola, not only do I think he's not talented enough, I think he kind of hurts the culture, and I think he should have been gone a while ago. Jordan Morris is probably worse than Arriola is right now, but I can at least get it because he was good once. Like, it sucks that injuries have taken its toll, but they have, and we have to be realistic that Jordan Morris does not offer anything against a high level of opposition. Honestly, it's kind of like Aaron Long, even before the injury, like, he was only so good, and now, after his injury, like, he shouldn't be anywhere near this team. I'm hoping that he gets leaved off in favor of, like, a Luca de la Torre, maybe another striker like a Haji Wright or Jordan P. Falk, but I think Jordan Morris is going to be there. Lastly, up top we have Hayes Ferreira, Ricardo Pepi, and Josh Sargent. I think Hayes Ferreira and Pepi are just about guaranteed, and Josh Sargent I think is on the bubble, but I'm hoping he's there. Hayes Ferreira, we know that he's Berhalter's favorite because Berhalter doesn't really like strikers. I think he's more of a 10 naturally, and even at a 10, I'd probably prefer Reyna or Aaronson or even Malik Tillman. But Ferreira's not like a bad player like the other MLS guys, which, sorry, but I'm just saying it. He's actually good on the ball. We've seen him with great goal-scoring contributions, and I really like his potential. But at the moment, it's just potential, and I really am worried if we start him up front because I don't think he'll be able to score a goal. Ricardo Pepi is another player with great potential, and he's showing he can be good in the Eredivisie. I definitely bring him to the squad if for nothing else than to get him experience, but it's going to be a tough ask to have him have a great game. This is going to be a very high level of opposition, a lot of pressure to put on a young player, and we've seen him not perform very well in the Bundesliga. He's done well in the Eredivisie, but will Wales and Iran give him time? England's certainly going to be a challenge. And I do really like him. His hold-up play is great. He has some amazing runs, like a very smart striker. But will he be able to really impact the game at the highest level yet? And I don't know. Then we have Josh Sargent, who I would have start because we know that he can do well against championship-level opposition, which is almost a backwards compliment, but we just have to take it for what it is. We know that he can do well against Wales because, let's be honest, Ethan Ampadu, Joe Rodon, Connor Roberts, Nico Williams, aside from Ben Davies, it's a championship-level defense, or at the very least, like, tweener Premier League, which Josh Sargent is as well. Strictly because of that, I think he'll be able to score a goal against Wales, and he does everything else you want a striker to have. He can press with the best of them. He can drop him to the midfield. Some people are arguing that he was a midfielder last year, and I think he should definitely be in the team. He can even cover for winger if you want to bring in a more defensive guy. He can do that role much better than Arriola, but so can Nicholas Giacchini, so, just is what it is. I think Josh Sargent is actually on the bubble for Gregg, because I look at the fullback and center backs, and if we want to bring Chris Richards, I think Sargent's the one who gets cut, because he's not going to cut any of his guys. I don't think he cuts Morris. So I think if there's one spot that has to go, it's probably going to be Josh Sargent at the striker role. I'm thinking that he keeps Sargent in the team, but again, he could very easily be Chris Richards here. I'm hoping it's Sargent, but I'm not positive. And so this is the team that I have Gregg Berhalter bringing. Zack, Steffen in goal with Matt Turner and Sean Johnson. Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Mark McKenzie at center back. Sergino, Dest, Jedi Robinson, Reggie Cannon, and DeAndre Yedlin at fullback. Adams and Acosta at the 6, Weston, McKennie, Musah, Aaronson, Reyna, Tillman, Roldan at the 8, then Pulisic, Weah, Arriola, and Morris as wingers, and Ferreira, Pepe, and Josh Sargent up top. We do have a chance to win any game, any given day. We've got enough talent that even England, with our worst lineup available, we have a chance to beat them. I'm not confident that English defense, they might put Trent Alexander-Arnold and Harry Maguire out on the field. We'll be able to get by them. But that's a what if, and if we go with this roster, I have to say I'm not too confident. I don't like the matchups that we have. I think we need a real striker who can put the ball in the back of the net against Iran. I think we need a much more competent defense going up against Wales. And, England, it is what it is. We just have to give them our best shot. But we still have a chance to go far, even if this does end up being our roster. I'm going to back Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah, Weston McKennie if he's available. We've seen how good Tyler Adams has been. Sergino Dest is an amazing player. We've got the talent needed to go far. And Musah, Reyna could have a just amazing breakout tournament that could lead to them getting a huge move in January. There are a lot of positives to look forward to. But, when it comes to this roster, we, hope for the best, expect the worst. And yeah, that's all I've talked about. Hopefully the roster's better. I'm going to put up what I do tomorrow. And yeah, that's all I've talked about. See ya.